Have you ever been in the middle of an argument, or even just a moment where someone was clearly in the wrong, and felt your eyes fill up before your words could come out? Have you ever been so frustrated that your voice broke, and then watched the entire conversation shift from the thing that mattered to the fact that you were crying? Have you ever sat alone afterward, replaying it, not sad, genuinely still angry, and wondered why your body keeps doing this to you at the worst possible moment? If you recognized yourself in those questions, stay with me. I came across this recently and it completely reframed something I had felt confused about for years. Because what you just described is not weakness. It is not instability. It is one of the most specific, most misunderstood emotional patterns that exists, and it has a root that goes back much further than the argument you are thinking about right now. Your anger has somewhere it was supposed to go. It just never got there, and your tears are the evidence of everything it carried instead. Psychologists call what happens in these moments emotional substitution, when the nervous system reroutes a blocked emotion through a channel that feels safer. Anger, for many people, was simply not allowed, not in any direct way necessarily. Sometimes it was the house where raised voices meant danger. Sometimes it was the parent whose mood could turn on a word. Sometimes it was just the unspoken rule that your frustration was inconvenient or dramatic or too much. And so, your body, being brilliant and adaptive, found the only exit that didn't come with consequences: tears. Your nervous system learned that anger was a risk, and tears got you comfort, or at least didn't get you punished. So, over years and years of practice, the pathway got built. Now, every time anger tries to move through you, it hits that old wall and comes out the only way it was ever shown it could. There is also something called nervous system dysregulation. What happens when your body experiences emotional intensity that exceeds what it learned to handle? For people whose anger was consistently suppressed or shamed, even moderate frustration can overwhelm the system. The tears aren't the emotion, they're the pressure valve. And they come out not because you're sad, but because your body has no other release. Research shows that people who grew up in environments where specific emotions were forbidden develop particular blind spots, places where they can feel something but cannot access it cleanly, cannot name it in real time, cannot get it out in its original form. Your anger is real. It is valid. It is just locked behind a door your childhood installed, and your tears are what leak out from underneath it. Carl Jung wrote, "One does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious." Your anger is not darkness, but it has been living in the dark, unnamed, unexpressed, leaking out as something else. And the cost of that is specific and real. In relationships, your anger comes out as tears in the moments you most need to be heard clearly. And then you feel dismissed or misread, or like you gave the other person permission to redirect the conversation away from the thing that mattered. At work, injustice stings your eyes, and you have to look away, excuse yourself, perform composure while something legitimate burns underneath. Alone, at night, the anger finally arrives. Hours after the moment, in private. And even then it comes as tears, because that is the only form it knows how to take. And there is something quietly exhausting about going through your whole life, feeling things that can't come out as themselves. About being furious and being perceived as fragile. About having something important to say, and watching it dissolve before it reaches the air. This is the part that most psychology channels completely skip. You might find that you apologize after crying in conflict, not because you were wrong, but because the tears made you feel like you lost. You might find that your most valid anger arrives late, hours after the moment, when you are alone, and there is no longer anyone to say it to. You might find that you can feel entirely clear about an injustice and still be unable to speak it without your voice breaking. Not because you don't mean it, because your body still doesn't trust that anger is safe. You might find that other people's anger doesn't scare you, but your own does. Because you never saw it modeled as something that could exist without causing damage. None of this is who you are. It is what you learned. Healing begins with the simplest and most unfamiliar act. Letting your anger be anger, not performing it, not explaining it, not converting it into something softer before anyone can see it, just naming it. First to yourself, on paper, alone, in whatever small private moment you have, before it has to be anything for anyone else. Shadow work is where this starts. Writing the sentence, "I am angry about this," not sad, not hurt, angry. Practicing the word in low-stakes moments until it stops feeling dangerous. Until your body starts to understand that anger named is not the same as anger unleashed. that you can feel it without it destroying anything. Nervous system regulation means learning to sit inside the heat of mild frustration without immediately suppressing it or flooding. Noticing the feeling rising, breathing through it, staying present with it long enough for it to exist as itself, not as tears, not as silence, but as the real thing. This takes practice. It takes patience. It takes more time than feels reasonable, and it is worth every moment. And learning to identify safe people who can receive your anger without making you pay for having it, is how you begin to take the feeling out of the dark and into relationship. Real relationship. The kind where you can say, I'm angry, and not lose something. Rumi wrote, the wound is the place where the light enters you. The wound here is not that you cry when you are angry. The wound is that somewhere, a long time ago, your anger was told it had no right to exist, and it believed that, and it has been paying the price in tears ever since. The goal is not to be fixed. It is to become whole. Here is the thought I want to leave you with tonight. Somewhere, right now, someone is sitting in their car after a conversation they needed to win, crying, not sad, just still angry with nowhere to put it. They are not dramatic. They are not weak. They are someone whose anger never got a door, and they are just starting to understand that the door can still be built. If that is you, share this with someone who might recognize themselves in it. Some of the most important things we ever learn about ourselves, we learn because someone quietly handed us a mirror.